One thing that I really loved about international basketball, we all know that we grow up and you want to be drafted and you want to play in the NBA and you want all of those opportunities that come with that. But at the same time, you know that for people that come from smaller schools, when you're 1 year removed from your college or whatnot, and if you play well, then you can climb significantly in the game and you can catch up to other people who might have been draft picks or might have got a different situation. And so that's the one thing that I appreciate about international basketball is that you can play your way up, that your background doesn't matter so much, and you get an opportunity to go out there and prove it on the court. Because so many times when we know in America, when you're trying to go in the NBA draft, when you're trying to play on summer league teams, you might not get the opportunity that you need to showcase your abilities and make that 15-man roster and obviously not make it to the paydays that you want. But we've seen players who have played in Europe who have started in second division, flying their way all the way up into EuroLeague at a high-level situation and getting a lot of respect. So I love that aspect of it, that you can compete and climb up.
Hold on. You saying that that's not existing in the NBA?
I don't think that this is prevalent as it is in overseas. When you look at guys that you can say really good players, a Kyle Hines, who's the all-time leading rebounder or whatnot in EuroLeague and all these championships that he has and whatnot, what kind of a look does a guy that comes from that school get an opportunity in the NBA? And he was a great
Derek
college
White.
player. Okay, you can name one, but I can name five for every one that you got in the NBA. You know,
well, I mean, it's also that has to do like you could play. I think you could play. There's plenty of guys in the NBA who have played from G League into the NBA. Now you're going to become one of the best players in the NBA. Obviously not, because just the talent level. I understand that, but I think that exists on both sides of the world.
You can become one of the best players when it comes to internationally. Most of the best players internationally are coming from these Power 5 high-level organizations. And I would even say guys come over from the NBA don't make that much noise when they come into the EuroLeague ranks.
Yeah, and I think that's because of the things we talked about from before. You go from essentially being a pro back in the day. Now it's different. You essentially go from being a pro to being an amateur in terms of treatment and in terms of – so, I mean, I think to me, that has a lot to do with it. Like the mentality of some of the coming from Lamar, if you're Mike James, I mean, you have an ego. He had an ego, I'm sure, but just the expectation of pulling up overseas wasn't what it was coming from Wisconsin, Stanford, or Alabama. But that being said, I don't know if that's something to laud about, because why should you? Mike James is clearly more talented than a lot of guys in the EuroLeague level. Clearly, he's proven that. Why should he have to start in second? That's ridiculous. That's a ass backwards system that you have to start in second division. Derek White was in the G League because arguably Derek White's still not more talented than a lot of guys in the NBA. He just found his way. So why is it something to be? Why are we sitting here lauding something where guys have to climb up this totem? How do you create? I don't look at that as like a positive, to be honest.
I'm just saying it's got to be a positive from the standpoint from a competitive issue. When you don't come from a Stanford or Alabama or Wisconsin, and you know that you have a fighting chance that you can come over and in a year or 2 or 3 years, you can find yourself on the same playing field as someone who was at a Stanford or Alabama or Wisconsin. Now you have an opportunity that you can really elevate your career. Whereas when you're that underdog at another small college, you always are saying, if I was doing this at that school, then I would probably get more notoriety. But if you don't get that opportunity to ever even have people look at you and show it, then you're never going to get a chance to come up. So you can mention a Derek White, but a Bo McCaleb can be first team all EuroLeague and be one of the top players coming from New Orleans. And he might not get that same look if he's trying to be in the NBA, but he can be a legend overseas.
Oh, well, but I think, well, you said coming from a top college, that's a bit archaic as well. Like guys coming from top colleges now aren't necessarily the first looks. So I would say coming from the college system, it's a pretty even playing field now. Like you see guys and it might uneven now just because of NIL. So the guys coming from, but you see guys like recent Dame Lillard, Steph Curry, plenty of small school guys have been getting those looks. Nate Walters have been getting those type of looks in the NBA for a long time now. A long time.
I still would think that they're not going to be at the numbers in which, if you're a scout, how often do you want to be going and going to be checking out all of the smaller schools as much as you're going to have the opportunities to go into the Power Five? If you're going into the Power Five conferences or whatever it's called now, the top levels, you're going to be looking for the talent that has the physical attributes to play in the NBA. And that's going to be the main reason why that player is on the mid-major or low-level level. And that's not something that people are going to take in consideration when you play overseas. Yeah, they would love to have the 6'11" power forward who has the skill set to dominate in the EuroLeague. But chances are you're not going to get him. But they will take the 6'7" guy who's really, really a good player and just lacks the height or the size. And that guy can go overseas and carve out an outstanding career for himself and be a legend at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think going overseas buys you time though too. You know, kind of like you said, it buys you time to work on whatever they overlooked you on. You know what I mean? I think that when you look at like an Eric McCollum, you know, I mean, he still doesn't have a NBA type body, but you know, he's obviously had opportunities to make it there. And I think that you know, Mike James, I think, is also another example of that, you know, just being able to you know, just being able to, you know, come from a small school, get it out the bottom, and then you know, work your way up to the top and become, you know, not only one of the most dominant guards today, but I think he's obviously he's the leading scorer of all time.
Mike James isn't. We gotta stop invoking Mike James and Kyle Hunt. Like, who are the top guards in EuroLeague today? Who are the top guards? American guards. Who are the top guards?
Okay, we'll go Kendrick.
Wade Baldwin,
Kendrick
Nunn, who came from the NBA though. Like,
he also came from a small school.
Well, that proves my point. Like, yeah, and he made it to the NBA. Came from a small school and made it to the NBA. So Kendrick Nunn,
okay.
Wade Baldwin, Lorenzo Brown, NC State, Nick Kalathis. Who am I missing?
Every one of these guys probably lacks the positional size that they need to have been in the NBA. Every single one of them, if you're naming those guys.
Those are all big school guys. Like, those are all, like, Lorenzo Brown doesn't lack positional size. Nick Kalathis doesn't lack positional size. Kendrick, I guess maybe now, but he spent 6-7 years in the NBA. Who else did I say?
They lack something. Nick Kalathis doesn't have the athleticism, the jumping ability.
But I'm saying Nick Kalathis wasn't a guy that went overseas and built his way up. Nick Kalathis went overseas and went to Panathinaikos. Like, Lorenzo Brown went straight to the EuroLeague. Kendrick Nunn went straight to the EuroLeague. Like, Mike James is an outlier. Who else? Who am I forgetting? The top guards.
Eric McCollum. Eric McCollum's. So you got Eric McCollum,
like,
Mike
James. He didn't spend a lot of time in EuroLeague.
Huh?
How many years did Eric play in the EuroLeague versus Euro Cup? He spent a lot of time in Russia and China.
Well, okay. Well, I'm looking at it from a standpoint of let's just say quote unquote ballpark salary range, because I think there's a lot of guys that could play in Euro Cup or EuroLeague, high level Euro Cup, high level EuroLeague, and let's not play like Euro Cup didn't have that bag in Russia. They had EuroLeague money, and then you know you have guys in China that are pretty much the same value. You got Darius Adams,
Malcolm Delaney, like.
You got Darius Adams,
but that's in China though. Like that's a whole entirely different. I'm saying that's a bit of a different conversation.
He worked his way up in Europe to get to China though. He could have went to Europe.
Darius Adams?
Yeah, EuroLeague. Also.
And how many years did he spend in Europe?
At least 4 or 5 before he went over, I think.
Jamal, where did Darius Adams go to school at? Let me get Jamal. Shout out Jamal.
He went to
team, man. So Lincoln College, I believe. Was it Lincoln College? Something small like that.
Man, we don't even know. That's how.
So right. so shout out Darius, but still, who else? Marcus Howard.
Okay, hold on. We had Darius Adams. There was another kid. Jonathan Gibson.
Jonathan Gibson didn't work his way up in Europe.
Why didn't he? He went
to China from Brindisi.
No, that man started out in Israel. Now I think he was playing for Netanya.
Israel, yeah.
Coming off,
he went. Jonathan Gibson went from like Netanya to Brindisi. Nah, Jonathan Gibson. He didn't work his way up in Europe. He went from a mid-level European team to China.
Netanya?
Yeah,
no, Brindisi. That's where he went from. It was after my rookie year. He was averaging 22 a game in the Italian league.
Yeah, he went there from Brindisi, but he started off in low-level Turkey, and then obviously Israel.
No, I hear you.
So that's still working your way up. That's still working your way up from a small school.
I don't know that he ever would have got to EuroLeague with his style of play back then. I think because
now he would have.
Maybe he would have. A great example would be someone like Matt Morgan, TJ Shorts,
Bo McKellop.
Those are the guys, right? But even then, like Matt Morgan,
you're still not giving me the equal amount of G League guys that have cracked the NBA. That have cracked the NBA rotation. Yeah,
I would have to go over there and so 4 guys. What do I need to give you? 4 guys
that have cracked the NBA rotation.
Jonathan's off the top of my head. Jonathan Simmons, Derek White. We'd have to get my man Jamal a little slow today in the back room. Tell Jamal to pull up a list of a G League guys, man. A G League guys, but it's been more than 5. Like you're not suggesting that it hasn't been.
No. But I'm saying it's been more than 5 that have gotten into that EuroLeague range of money from a small school overseas. Like I feel like there's way more opportunity. There's way more teams that are paying that much. And
over the years, because you're saying Bo McKellop played 10 years ago. Like we're talking like right now.
I'm just talking about a small guy that got there.
He got there.
But let's speak on contemporaries. Let's speak on like modern day contemporary guys like that come from that do that. There's not a lot. Like we're speaking on outliers. There's not a lot.
I still don't, because if you want to go with modern guys, that guy, if you go back and you say a Bo McKellop, a Kyle Hines that are at the school that they're going to transfer and go to a Power 5 school before their collegiate time is over. So you're not going to have someone, if you always talk about CJ McCollum, Steph Curry, like they're not going to stay at those schools past their freshman year coming in doing what they're doing. Now, Steph Curry was a little bit different. I think he said he did have some opportunities to go some other places. But if you take away the fact that you don't have to sit out anymore and you give them the portal and the NIL, no one's staying at those small.
Okay, Rich, this is 2 years in the making. I say modern, give it at least 10 years. Like obviously NIL is going to change the entire landscape of
guys are still transferring.
What I'm talking about.
They're still transferring 5 years ago.
Yeah, but not at the rate that they are now. They didn't not at the rate that they are now. Guys are in the portal averaging 7 points a game now. What I'm talking about is the guys weren't. Let's go back 10 years and talk about G League versus guys that started low-level Europe and made it to that high-level tranche of players in the past 10, even 15 years. Like I don't know. That's not like a prominent thing.
See, I think the same thing you have to take in consideration to talk about the G League, because with the influence of the G League having more games promoted on social media, on TV, the salaries going up, 2-way contracts, you're getting a whole nother pool of players now who are trying to say, I will try the G League for more years and actually stay there longer. I mean, if you go back, I don't know, I hate to say it, almost 20 years when I'm coming through, you had to make a decision off the rip. You're not going to do that. You're going to make a decision. You're going to say, if I got a team overseas, second division, offering me a solid contract as opposed to taking this B-level, C-level, D-League contract in nothing, you're going to take the overseas deal. And 1 or 2 years after playing overseas and get acclimated and doing things, doing numbers, you can find yourself going from a second division team to a really good organization in the first division in a country that has a good payroll. That's the point that I'm making, is that you can do that. And that same player would not have gotten a sniff in the NBA. So you have to be grateful to Europe for giving you that opportunity, because you wouldn't even have gotten that opportunity in the league.
Maybe not. And again, you bring up the 2-way as a way to, but the 2-way's been around for 5 years. Like, and quite frankly, we're talking about, and really it just started paying, like the rules have changed dramatically on the 2-way in the past 2 to 3 years. So like, even then the 2-way hasn't played that much of a factor in the conversation. You're talking about modern guys. Like the 2-way, you couldn't even be up there longer than 45. And it was only what? That's a pool of 60 guys. and they were non-guaranteed.
But you got to look at the fact of what guys were already trying to get film in the G League when the new rule 5-6 years ago with the two-way came out. If you already got it in there, you got to take it back longer because it might become opportunistic or to your advantage to say, I'm going to hang around in this because I can achieve my goal of getting to the NBA. That goal wasn't there for people who played 15 years ago. It's not there. You had to elect to go overseas, and overseas was going to give you an opportunity that you just quite frankly couldn't get in America. So you have to be great.
For sure. But if you still go back 12, 13 years, that idea of someone working their way up through low-level Europe to prominence in Europe is not it's not a common thing. Like, I don't think there's just as many guys that go over there and flutter out, and they shouldn't even had to start at the level that they started at. Is like, there's probably even more ridiculous.
I guarantee you, if you go on every, let's say Spain is the best domestic league in Europe. I bet if you go on every roster, you'll probably find at least one guy from a small school.
Alex Renfro, 16-year pro, played for about 8 different teams in Spain.
But that's entirely changing the scope of what we're talking about. Of course, you're going to find guys from a small school because every roster in Spain isn't prominence in Europe.
I mean, it's the prominent domestic league in Europe.
Yeah, but you just said salary, though.
No. We're talking about salary. You're talking about prestige.
Good said salary.
Okay, the salary can be there, but it's also the prestige of the job, the organization and respect of the country in which that you're playing in, the respect of the league. That guy that's playing at that mid-major, small major, not going to be able to get that in the NBA. He can't get it. But you can get that, and you have a whole comparable career over the long term. How I don't see how you can't.
I don't understand why you think the prestige of playing at Real Betis means something to a lot of these guys. Like, it means more to you than it does to most guys.
Man, you need to talk to some of these guys. If you talk about a guy that's playing low major college and they finally get an opportunity, as I mentioned, this is not someone that's playing in the Big Ten. So if you get an opportunity to play and you find yourself in these first divisions and whatnot and playing for a long period of time, man, that's I didn't say it doesn't mean something to them. I said they don't see it as some prestigious job. Just because it means something to them doesn't mean that they don't see it as some like you played in the EuroLeague. It meant something to me to play in the EuroLeague. I had a lot of fun. I don't see Asvel as like some prestigious basketball job or Madrid or Gala as some prestigious basketball job, but it meant something to me.
No, I get you, but I think if we go back and run the numbers, I think we'll see that more players have spent longer at that level of, like, let's just say it's between $800 and $1 million, whatever it is. More players, once they got there, have stayed there in that pocket, as opposed to guys that have worked their way up from the G League, made an NBA a roster, and stuck.
Oh, the numbers are almost
marginally, I'd say.
I don't know.
No, I would dare say this. I would dare say the numbers are non-existent for the guys who come on. And I would love to see someone break down and see how many players come from college, sign as an undrafted free agent on the summer league roster, and let's see how many guys make the team.